welcome to coachawedi.org. And this is uh, wonderful, as you can see, Sister Rochelle. Rochelle, it's a pleasure having met you long way back. And thank you so much for allowing yourself just to come and record this, indeed, to inspire many young people. And I pray that indeed, as they get to watch, that they will be able to just learn a lot from your life. Personally, as I've happened or I've had time to work with you, I count myself blessed for I've seen you growing from many challenges to just being a wonderful person. And I really appreciate the hard work you've put behind who you are today. And sky's the limit. I wish you all the best, And so please let me give you this chance to introduce yourself so that we continue. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rochelle Juma. I'm a fashion designer, stylist at Niara Fashion House. Also a French translator. So what else? I think this is the third year now. I met Coach Oidi in 2021 June. So 3 years now, I'm guessing. Yeah.
So tell me, you're a fashion designer, and apart from that, you also are with the School Alliance Française.
Yeah, but I'm doing translation alone, not with the school, but that's where I study.
Okay. And so tell me, before the moment you came to meet me, what was going on? Why? And yeah. So briefly, what was going on with you?
At the exact point of what was going on, I'd say that month, June, I think I had my last suicidal attempt was a month before that, let's say May, and I confided in a friend who is the one who referred me to you. So he just told me, I think at this point you need a lot of therapy and counseling, because he already knew some of the things that I had gone through, but he was not in a position to really assist me in any way. And that is when he referred me to you. And that was my first time actually meeting a therapist or talking to a professional. And that's what led to meeting you at that time.
And I've seen the progress. It's been tremendous. A determination to make a difference in life is actually the reason why. That's why I actually thought about recording you. Because as I get to meet many other young people, the amount of pressure the world is exposing our young people to is just a lot. And some of them go back to some of the culture that we've been raised up in. Some of them go to just poor parenting, and our parents many times just parent us the best way they know how. And you go back and you realize that some of the mistakes they've made end up compromising the life of children. Some of them are learned habits from the schools where we go to, the children we associate with. And so literally, even before you thought about the suicidal attempt, how many times, and what were some of the ways that mostly you would think about on how to take your life, from this world? What comfort were you thinking it was going to bring to you?
I can't remember the first time, but there's one attempt or two that I remember. One was in 2017. I was still in high school. So I remember that one specifically because I ended up in hospital. So I had been suspended from school, and I'm a firstborn. So you can imagine I'm the first child to go to a boarding school, and you hear cases of people being suspended and now it happened home, and the disappointment from my parents. So they're constantly having to deal with that guilt, even when I knew whatever I was suspended from, it's not something that I did, and it wasn't. Um, it's not something that I could take responsibility for till date, because it whatever the school did was wrong. So I felt everyone was against me because the school wasn't in a position to listen to my defense. Neither was my family, because if the school called and they chased you away from school, then it means you did something wrong. And my high school life was not a bed of roses at all. There wasn't even a single rose. It was really difficult. And coming back home and having to face that, and now everybody knows and everyone is blaming you, I just wanted to remove myself, like to remove the burden. So I thought to myself that if I actually die, it's going to make everyone be at peace finally, because now I won't be a problem anymore. So I remember the next morning I woke up, and we used to have like a shelf full of drugs. We have people, I have ulcers. My dad had ulcers. My mother had also been operated. So she had all these drugs from the surgery and other drugs for my siblings, which I don't even know what they were from. I just remember sampling each one of them, and I took each one of them, and the consequences of that till date, I don't even like taking medicine because it just gives me that, I don't know, there's something it does to my body where it's a bit of like traumatic. But yeah, after that, I think just hours later, I was in a hospital bed. So that is the one that I remember the most. And since it's the only one which I could see my family now toned down, for a moment I thought now they listened, and now they saw me and they're like, there's really something going on, you're not okay. And I started talking to my mom and my mom's sisters. They started talking to me, just encouraging me. And yeah, the other ones were tiny things that till date, I don't know why they didn't work. I even used to put spirit in like my drinks or my foods, because we grew up being told, don't touch surgical spirit, it will kill you. And some of them had this labels, which is written like it's poisonous. And I'd put that in my food, in my drinks, hoping I'd even have a stomachache, but nothing. Like I'd go to sleep, I wake up really okay. But those are the tiny ones that I could remember. So I know I graduated from suicidal attempts to now the year that before I met you, like 2021, I was, it was post COVID. I had also a traumatic incident that I went through, and I was still in such of like a job. I started job hunting even before I finished campus, because I really wanted to be independent for a very long time. So that year is when I also faced my breaking point in terms of relationships with men, and I graduated from now suicide to self harm. That one was just like, it wasn't a comfort really. It's something also from movies I had watched, and I used to read a lot of books um, with mental health, and not the kind that are good, just people's stories of what they've been through and how they tackle it. So you'd find in most of the books and most of the movies, they it's like they stopped attempting suicide because they realized it's not working. They're not going anywhere, and that's at the point where I was. And they'd practice self harm. That's like some of them I know burnt themselves, but me, I'm scared of fire, so I wouldn't do that. The one that was most common was cutting yourself, like cutting your wrists or your thighs. And it didn't make sense until the first time I did it. And it made me, it's like I was focusing on the physical pain. And now my emotional pain it's like vanished. Just everything I was feeling inside it was gone. Now
Wow.
I just have to, yeah, I was just focusing on, I'm feeling pain here. So I don't have to think about the problems I'm going through at all. But that also had to stop since, I'm also having scars on myself and it's not looking pretty, especially for like a
Mm,
girl. So
mm.
yeah.
Wow, wow, that must have been difficult. You find rejection from school, falsely accused, and then when you come home, you don't find comfort.
Mhm.
And it's not like you don't find comfort because your parents know, they also most likely don't know what to do, just ignorance. And then when you come from there, again, the life becomes so difficult and you're going through so much pain and you're looking for a better pain to replace the emotional pain. So you end up resorting to cutting yourself and you feel better because the physical pain replaces the emotional pain.
Okay. Some of the emotions I was going through. One is I have really struggled with knowing myself, managing myself. So I have grown up being sort of compared. I never felt enough for anyone. So leaving school, because I had my own challenges in high school, which that one, I think most of us who went to that school, we had the same. But leaving, um, but I can even mention some of them in high school included um, going to a school which was way above the social class that I was raised in. And it's the first place where we ever experienced colorism against dark people. So that was like a very new concept considering my mother is very light. So it,
Mm,
it didn't make sense. Also going to her and explaining that you're facing this kind of problem in school. She doesn't know because she's grown up being praised for her color and you're gone somewhere where you're being told your color is not as beautiful as you imagined. You also have to deal with the social class, which, yeah, it didn't affect me that much because I also had people who came from the same as me. But there's that feeling of not belonging at some point. And we really had a problem with tribalism in that school. And I'm one of those tribes that are the main, we are really attacked or we attack other people. So there's no running away from it. And
wow.
yeah, we had, I wouldn't say like the normal type of bullying that people go through. It's it's the kind of bullying where you're bullied because of where you come from, how you look.
Mm, mm, mm,
And I really struggled with acne growing up, like a lot. Right now I still do, but I think I'm okay. I'm comfortable with my skin. It doesn't bother me right now. Like I accepted it. Now after high school, the same people that you went to school with, remember different social classes. So regardless of if they passed their exams or failed, they have things going on. They've joined private schools, they've joined driving school, and me, according to everyone else, I had failed considering the grade was a C. So that means you don't get to go to public university. Like you have to be self-sponsored. So that's considered
mm.
failing. So I had some time, like months before I realized what I was going to do in like the university and like what course and which school you're going to. So that period between January and September before figuring things out, it brought it's kind of like magnified the not being enough because other people have already maybe joined, because the people who joined in March, and now you don't know what to do with your life anymore. So you see that feeling of you don't have a sense of belonging. You're just
Yeah.
at home. Other people are already moving on with like their life. So, and also after school, there's now meeting people in terms of friendships and the relations that you have out there. And if you're not um, you're struggling with like self-esteem and you're not okay with yourself, or rather I wasn't, it sort of um, now affected the way you like I interacted with people or I related with people. Now it's outside family, it's now the friends and now the relationships, and you become this anxious person that any little thing that you do with the relations you have, it's I'm scared this person is going to see me the way I see myself. At the time, I didn't know that's how I see myself. I just thought everyone
Wow.
saw me like that. Yeah. So I was just scared that they would leave because they will see me the way I see myself, how I see myself physically, because I wasn't um, in a place of loving myself emotionally, physically, in the other aspects. So that drove me crazy, for lack of a better word. And then there are
Wow.
also some traumatic events to add it. So it's imagining that people haven't gone through the same. It's just me. So it's in putting it in one sentence is it's one take to sort of like the arts to open and I get it. And there are moments where I even used to pray to God. I used to talk to God and I just told him, I wish you would have asked me before putting me in a womb. Just ask me, do you really want to do this life thing or not? Because there are so many instances where I regretted being born, which I don't think is something that people like. I don't think people get to that point. But for me, yeah, I used to regret being born, and I was like, if I knew this is how life was going to be, maybe I'd have turned myself in that womb and in some other way just not make it out alive at all.
Wow.
So yeah, uh, yeah, because the main traumatic experience in my life has been sexual assault from when I was like 9 years old. That was like the first time, and it was a relative. And at the time, I didn't even know what it was. Like I think I was in denial for some time, but it also affected me. I started distancing myself from male relatives. Even some of my female relatives, like my aunts, would come and they just pat your cheek, or the things that are so innocent, but your body reacts in a way that feels it's not okay, you know. And from 9 years all the way to when I was 17, it happened again. And this time I was in a relationship. So it was even harder to talk to someone and tell them that I got raped by my boyfriend, because he's supposed to be your boyfriend. Like it's it's like there's no problem with that. And even with that, I was in denial, I think, for like the whole year until when I joined campus and we were doing like a sex education unit, and how rape and sexual assault presents itself was being talked about. And I just had that thing where I know I was raped, but how will I even start explaining that? Because it's like a lot of shame that comes with it. And I think also a year later, I realized that experience gave me a condition which is called vaginismus. I don't think so many people know about it, but now I had like a physical condition from it. So my body couldn't react the same way sexually as other people because it is trauma. So I just could not. And it took me, I think from 2022 is when I was seeing a gynecologist who we started going through some therapy, because having the condition doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be able to have sex. It's also when you're having tests, reproductive tests, you can't be able to do them because it's like a huge challenge. Your body is just registering that that's trauma coming, so it doesn't allow you to even go through any normal tests. So we had to go through months of trying to get my body to feel safe and relaxed and like things are okay, so that I can also be able to get medication and tests normally without just letting the condition stay there. So yeah,
Wow.
those are some of the things
Wow.
that the
Wow.
emotions that I wanted to run away from. Thank you.
Life must have been difficult. You are 9 years old, molested by a relative, and then you come from that environment, you've not even talked about it. Then you come to school, there's tribalism, there is a bullying, and there's a self-esteem that also is literally making you feel like you're a nobody and painful, feeling like, man, why was I born? And you come to a moment where, like, man, I wish I was not born. And many times you walk, I wish the ground, the earth would just open up to swallow me, and you kept all that pressure within you. And then at the end of it all, again, as you're coming, you've kept all that. Then you have your boyfriend again rape you, and you don't report it because that's just part of life for you in a way. And that is not normal at that age. So at this point, when now the rape happened, and why did you keep quiet? Is it because you didn't know, or because you were feeling like I'm not worth anything? What made you keep quiet about
Um, I think first thing is it continued. It just didn't happen once and stop, because it still continued. And um,
it? Repeat that again. I
I
think the
feel like,
internet was going out a
oh,
bit.
okay.
Repeat that again.
uh, I think it's because it continued. It didn't happen once and that was it. It happened maybe 2 or 3 times, but I couldn't register that that's what it is. And I've also been very quiet girl growing up. So, like, not quiet, silenced is the word, because now is when I'm learning how to speak up for myself. So I was very
Mm.
silenced, and it was so, it didn't make sense for me to speak it out. And you see, I was also struggling with um, belonging and having something to my name. So I'm imagining, I'm I'm already picturing myself as nobody, because I'm not in school. I'm at home taking care of my brother, and my age mates are not doing the same. So if I add this other tragedy, I felt like it will continue to put me lower than I am, like to continue to push me like really down to the point where it's just my name that exists, but I'm nobody. And at the time, I didn't even know. I wasn't sure until I got into a class and there was a triangle being explained of different ways: sexual assault, molestation, rape, how they present themselves, and now what you can do. Because I think in therapy is when I talked about it first. And from therapy is when I was able to open up to my friends who had no idea. And that's how I opened up to my family and I told them. But I think years later, the the same guy just reached out to me to apologize. And I had never even mentioned to him that, because I just couldn't bring myself to speak up to it. And I think also when it happened when I
Mm.
was 9, the the relative at the time had threatened me. So I knew, like, I think my inner child at the time was just thinking about the threat that I got, that he's going to kill me if I ever mention it to anyone. Because I was beaten at the time. I tried when I was 9. I tried, and I wrote a note to one of my aunts, because I was at my aunt's house, and the man got the note before my aunt. So my
Wow.
aunt never even got to read the letter. Yeah, so he got it, and I was beaten so mercilessly. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I came from a place where I used to be beaten as a kid, but this was the first time I was being beaten by like branches of a tree, and this is someone who's not even my dad. Because for my dad that one was like so normal, but for this one, I think that just silenced me from ever speaking against any of that happened after that again.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
had a fear. You had a fear when you were molested at 9 that if I ever speak about it, what threat? Did he
Yeah.
tell you he would kill you? What about, did he say he would
Yeah.
kill your parents too?
No, he just said to me. And then
Many
you
a
see, after
time?
I was
Mhm.
beaten, I think the beating is what put me. I don't even think him saying he'll kill me scared me. It's the beating. I'm still
Mm.
scared of beating still deep. So it
Wow,
was the
wow.
beating that scared me.
So not only the sexual abuse, but also a beating on top of it. And I think from this is just important to be able to help just young people to know that it is important to report to your parents, their government agencies who are there, to report, even to a teacher in school, to report these things, because at the end of it all, this end up compromising your life. Again, to our parents, she said she never had a sex talk the way a
Yeah.
child needs to be walked through that journey. So she had no idea. Rochelle had no idea. So at the end
Yeah.
of it all, she just ends up knowing this when she's old. And this is just about parents. So yeah. The other thing I think, staying with relatives, those of us who are parents and have children, staying with relatives is very important to know
Relatives. Yeah.
and to avoid at all costs, because it's the same relatives who we stay with who molest our children. Anything else that you'd want to share just as a precautionary measure that parents should take, or a precautionary measure to this in school? What are some of the things that you think you'd advise now that you're in a different place?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say for your kids not to go stay with their relatives, because some of them, we used to go see our cousins. So it's hard to explain to the cousins themselves that this year your other cousins are not coming, and you can't explain to them it's because this something happened. Yeah. But I'd say from my experience is maintaining that relationship with your kids, where even if they go for a sleepover, when they come, you question them, but not in a parental, just a fun way, the way you might be telling your friends how your vacation was. So when you talk to your kids and tell them, ask them what happened, where did you guys go, eventually you create a space where they know they'll be able to tell you. And also, now I'm at a point where if I meet a child, and you see how people, when they meet kids, eventually you just want to hug them, say, like, greet them. If a child says no, I think a no is a no. It's okay. They don't even have to explain themselves why they don't want to be. And just for parents to just pay attention to those. There's a way your child would act towards some people. It raises some questions where you should now look into it, and now it's either you question the kid slowly and avoid that person coming, and see if there's another person coming, does the kid react the same way or not, and encourage your kids to have diaries a lot. So because for me it was easier, not every kid is able to speak and tell you that this is what happened. Some of them are good in writing. So once your kid has a diary, and you ask for that permission to be able to access it, they can be able to communicate to you through writing about it. And that, you bit by bit you can tell the exact details, instead of questioning them in case they would give you the full details about it.
Wow, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So, number one advice that you're giving, it is not necessarily chasing your relatives away, but
Yeah,
being in a position of empowering your children by teaching them how to journal their thoughts. And once in a while,
yeah,
you go through their thoughts with them. And as a parent, being a friend to your children also opens that
mhm,
space where a child is able to talk freely. And then finally, as well, just being, what do you call it? Being a friend with your child, very, and keeping a
yeah.
keen eye on the way your child responds or reacts to individuals who come into your place. What wonderful inputs. Thank you so much. I never thought of those.
Mhm.
Now let me ask you, at before you actually were meeting me, what was the level of your trauma? How had this come to affect you in terms of relationship with people, relationships with your parents, even now in terms of like self, esteem? How are you looking at yourself after going through all that from age 9, secondary, primary, tribalism, all the abuses? How did that affect you?
Um, After high school, um, I know I struggled with. So I've had a really low self-esteem. Like if it can be beyond zero, negative. I've really had a low self-esteem, and even after I saw you, I didn't see you, and then immediately it was okay. It took me time. I think maybe 1.5 years later is when I started being comfortable in myself. And the year before I met you, I also had some I had a traumatic incident where now this was away from the sexual assault, the feeling of belonging. So towards the end of 2020 now, I got pregnant. I don't want to say I got pregnant as a result of the low self-esteem, but I was with someone who now when I look back, I didn't deserve to be in that relationship, honestly. But it's because this is the only person who saw me and they knew the kind of problems that I'm sort of like tackling or going through, and they acknowledged them. And at the time, served sort of like a therapist, good friend. But it went on for, I think, 3 years post leaving high school. So even by the time that that happened, it wasn't even a real relationship. Let me put it like that. It was more of like friends, and then you guys were together at some point, not together like one night or like one day, and things just escalated. So I think at the time I was now turning 20 because I found out a day after my birthday, a day after I turned 20. So now the next day is when I took the tests and all that. The first thing that was in my head that led to like the termination was I was still in that process of trying to navigate. And I think it's the same because a month later, I was supposed to graduate from my diploma. And I was so looking forward to that because at least I get to have a graduation picture and I get to up myself in the family with something. Like now I have something I can put my name across. So now you don't have to see me and remember that grade in high school. Now there's something and I'm still continuing because I started my degree same year. I was just awaiting graduation for diploma. And I knew nothing was going to stop me getting that glory. So because if I look back to it, if it was just me, I probably wouldn't have been as excited to graduate. I was really doing it for the sake of getting that recognition from home. So a month before finding out like about this in African homes, which is something so huge, this is something that can even make you disowned or even chased away from home, especially for a girl. It's such a major. It's one of those things that you're told when you're very young that you should dare not. I should dare not find you in a situation where you're pregnant. And I used to think that can't happen to me. I don't know why I'm a woman, but I used to think it would happen to me until it did. In my first, because I remember when I was talking to the gynecologist that was taking me through that process like a year later, and she just asked, "Were you forced to do it?" And I was like, when I saw the results, that it was positive, the first thought in my head is termination. And no one is gonna convince me, even if the guy wants to. I'm not gonna be able to do it. And I remember even when I went to the hospital, like went to my stops, and they usually take you through like a pre-counseling before it. They just don't. It's not just business. And I think also for me because I was very young, so I remember talking to that doctor and telling her the one of the reasons I'm not doing this. I know everyone would say financially, which fine, but I'm not emotionally stable. I'm very emotionally unstable. I can't even take care of my own self. I'm imagining taking care of a kid and have to be there for their emotional distress. I haven't even handled mine. And I kept on telling myself, I really need to go for therapy because there's so many things. And now this happened, but at the time, it didn't even affect me like that. Me, I was just ready for the termination so that this process ends. And the process hit me months later because that year I graduated, celebrated Christmas, 2021 came. It's like I had blocked everything concerning that. I didn't even have friends that knew that would ask, "How are you feeling about it?" And I did not even talk about it, not because I'm feeling hurt. I just blocked all the emotions towards it. And to me, I used to think I did that child a favor because I wish someone would give me that. Remember when I said I just wanted God to ask me, do you really want to go through this life thing? Or should I just let you not go into earth? And I was like, I've given that child a chance because if they came to this life, it would have been even worse for them than it is for me. I think now months later, when I came to you and I had to unpack everything and I had to unpack the emotions with the abortion, I had to, whether I wanted or not. And now it started coming down because it takes a toll on you in a way that you can't describe to anyone else. And one thing about me healing from that was I had to tell myself that I don't have any shame and no one can shame me because at the end of the day, I was going to carry that pregnancy on my own. I was going to breastfeed, everything I was going to do it on my own. You will have people, yes, but at the end of the day, you will sleep with that kid alone. You wake up, when you have to figure out the finances. Yes, you support, but it's still you have to think of it. And imagine someone who doesn't even love themselves, because I didn't even love myself. And how was I supposed to love another human being? I would have turned into one of those toxic mothers, toxic parents, and I didn't want that for myself or like the kid. So I think I finally finished dealing with that. Or rather, like I said, I started journaling and telling myself one thing is I'm not gonna feel the shame. I'd rather feel the guilt, and with time that's changed. Like I remember I wrote down a letter to the baby. That really helped me with my guilt because now I poured my heart out to as if I was talking to it and letting them know why I did what I did, what are the circumstances that led to me being there, how life would have been for it, how life would have been with the father they had, the relationship between me and the father. And it helped me so much with dealing with the guilt. And now I started talking about it openly with people. But one thing I still used to tell some people who are in a position where they felt like they needed termination is it's not easy. It's not the easy way out. Whether you decide to keep the pregnancy or not, it's not an easy way out. You're still going through the same processes. You might even heal in years because I started reading books and some of like the I don't want to say victims, but people who've gone through it. Some of them even have kids right now. They're moms, but the pregnancy they had when they're 16 still affects them, even when they have four
Mm,
kids later in life. So it's not the easy way out as people assume it is. There are days
mm,
you'll think about it, especially if you had calculated when the baby would have been here, that you'd feel like that month things are not okay, or like the same dates things are just not functioning okay, or the time that you found out, like when you found out when it was conceived, uh, so still affect you like years later. um, I don't know any other thing about dealing with that. I think
wow.
also talking to your mom, which is something I got from you. Now I talked to my mom about
Mm.
it. Yeah, it somehow makes you feel a bit better. But um, with that, I think you just have to work on it on your own. You have to go through everything on your own before you're like 100% okay. Because even me right now, I'd say 95. Because there's still instances where you remember you have like thoughts of what if, but it gets better. So
Wow.
that's I think that was like the biggest thing ever that happened. That after that it also pushed me to seek help because I was like, if this ever happens again, I can't use the same excuse of I'm emotionally unstable and I can work through it. So yeah, it made me have that stand for I'm going to now start working on myself properly.
The best I can do is say so sorry for what you've gone through within this short time God has given you. I think a point that I'm picking clearly is you find that you have a low self-esteem, you have rejection as well from friends, and the pressure mounts, but yet in this life, God has given you a need to be able to find, joy. And so you end up looking for joy in wrong places because the relationship that you had, as you've mentioned, is not one of those relationships you'd even go into right now, but you are in it just trying to find a way out for life. And I think that's just one big lesson we need to see that clearly, if we don't deal with our past, if we don't deal with our pain, we end up living a compromised life. And as well, the termination, people would just think that the termination of pregnancy or abortion is something that happened because people like, not really. Circumstances which surrounded you, even though it's not an excuse, that circumstances around you were not pleasant. You have this boyfriend you don't like. You know very well that your mommy and daddy have told you if you ever become pregnant, you are a curse to the community, meaning in your home, a home where it is the place of love, a place of hope, a place you go back to as well. You know that will not be accepted. At the same time, you're not emotionally stable to even think because you're saying, I wish the ground would open up to swallow me. So then who will take care of this baby? You know? And so even though, many times we judge people who terminate pregnancy, it's always good to go in and understand where they're coming from. That's the lesson I'm learning from this. Given a chance today, what would you do differently, or what advice would you give young people in terms of boyfriend girlfriend relationships that we seek for especially when we are not emotionally okay. What advice would you give?
I think the things I've had to learn on my own is the most important thing is loving yourself. Say yourself, love yourself, but they don't give you ways. For me, I had to break it down and I had to start with physically loving my body. So that if someone else tells me my body looks okay, yeah, I'll say thank you. But deep down, I know it's not going to wow me, and now it's not going to surprise me that, oh, this one actually thinks that, it doesn't matter what you think because I already think about it myself. And a way I had to learn how to do that is stare at myself in the mirror. It sounds so bizarre. Even when you tell someone, like you have to stare, even when you're like, especially after taking a shower and you're dressing up, dress up in front of a mirror and know the tiny bits about yourself. Someone shouldn't find you and say, I have seen there's a mark on your shoulder, and you find that so, oh, I think this person really cares about me because they noticed. No. So finding like small details about you that you appreciate and think love about it is so important. Journaling about aspects of your life, um, even if it's like a paragraph or like one sentence, uh, that helps you to romanticize your life. Like you go back home, you look forward to telling yourself how your day was. Just journaling about your day, talking about it with yourself, finding things you love doing, hobbies. It's really important to find something you love doing. One thing I love that's it's not normal for every other person is I really love matatus. Like that matatu culture, how loud they are, the speed. Me, if I will find myself in that at the end of a day, that is so interesting for me. Like it's made my day, but it doesn't have to make sense to other people. Not everyone loves them, but I do, and it gives me so much joy being in them. You could take
Wow.
yourself for things that you like doing. They're just tiny things that only you would understand about yourself. That even if the whole world leaves, you can still be able to stand on yourself. Once you're at least even 90% of yourself, it would be easier when you're with someone. You can both draw boundaries. These are values that you have, and you are not willing to cross certain lines. So you won't stay in relationships or friendships that are not healthy for you because you appreciate yourself and you tell yourself, whether you're here or not, I'm still gonna be able to live. Like you're just a bonus to my life. I have a salary, but you're
Mm,
like the bonuses or benefits. So I can still do without you.
wow.
So the salary in this case is me. Like I have myself. So you just come as a pinch, just dashes of garnish. So it helps you filter some of the people, but it will take time. It's not the first time now you start drawing lines. Sometimes, or something I learned in therapy is even when you hear from certain people, it's good to heal in absence. It's easy for someone to tell when you're with someone, you need to have a life of your own. And then you start being with someone and you realize you're depending on them fully. Now you start learning how to catch yourself slowly by slowly. So it's a long process. It's not as a quick snap as
As
everyone
easy as it
imagines it
may.
to be.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah, yeah.
so much. As you talk, you're reminding me of the first time we met, and hearing these words from you, it's just mind boggling and joy filling, to just be self aware and love yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. Who you are is what people appreciate
Yeah.
because in relationships, there are manipulators who know how to use psychology to make you feel lesser. And the moment that you feel lesser, they take advantage of you. And some of them know how to point the weaker part, the weak link in your life. But if you're aware, you come up with clear boundaries. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. Also, just learning that it is important that to know that we will go through painful moments, but using your pain to learn to be a better person, not to be repeating the same mistake, treasuring your pains and not passing or throwing away your pain. But I want to take you back.
Yeah, there's even
Okay, please go ahead.
mhm. There's a quote. I think I was told this by someone. Life is like a school. It's like a school exam. So it will keep on sending the same paper, the same test to you, and you will keep on failing until you learn the lessons from the last test and you actually work through it that you can move on to the next. So sometimes you can never move on. You feel stagnant at somewhere in life, but look with it, something that life wants to teach you. If you refuse to take the lessons, it would not be easy to move to the next step until you learn from them and work through them, and then you can move to the next level now. That was really powerful for me because sometimes
Wow.
I
So
was even
life,
assigning in therapy like life is like an exam, or
wow.
like school to keep on sending the same test. Yeah,
So that
and
examination
this
will never
helped
go
when
away. It will never go away until
yeah,
you pass the
until
test and
you
when you go to the next level of exam. And you cannot cheat life. You
yeah,
cannot cheat life. It remains. Wow. That's a nice,
yeah,
powerful one. Continue.
yeah, it helps when I think when you're going through these assignments, when you're told journal, and there are days you just feel like I don't think I'll journal. Even me, I'm tired. But then you remember, you'll keep on staying in that situation until you like journaling is now revising for that paper. Until you journal and you get better is when you can move on. Until you love yourself, until you start like reading your Bible, you'll still have those nightmares thoughts. Like you have to put in the work no matter how hard it's really hard. It's not easy, but you just keep on telling yourself, I
Mm.
need to move to the next level in life. So I would rather do this even with
Mm.
all the tears. Yeah, so that I just move from
I
this
remember,
situation.
I remember the time you'd try to journal and it would be so difficult, and I would tell you, go back and write. Go and you'd go back and write, and a lot of things would be revealed about you. And those were the moments of success when
Yeah.
you say no to yourself and do it. Now, I remember this time when you spoke about your esteem level had gone so low that even at times going to a matatu or bus stage or going to a class would be so difficult when people are already there. Could you share briefly
Mhm.
about? And you had to use an Uber.
Uh,
It was expensive on you. Yes.
yeah, I really struggled with social anxiety now, and along the years, I came to learn social anxiety comes in different ways. I think there's that one for people. There's a common one, but I learned how mine portrays, and that's how I was even able to work through it. And mine was just I used to be scared of people, not that people would hurt me. I felt like everyone is watching me and they can see what's going on in my head. It's like they're seeing everything I've gone through. They're seeing all the mistakes and all the flaws. I never imagined that people are looking at me and they're not paying attention. I just used to think I'm working somewhere. Everyone has stopped what they're doing. They're just looking at me because they can see there's something in me. They can see that, like, you see all those things that I've gone through. And I struggled with that. That's one thing that I never imagined I'd ever escape. But even till date, I'm able to walk in town alone yeah, by times I'd still go back and think about it, and I'm like, I can't believe that's me. I could never leave the house to go to the shop outside the gate without a friend or without talking on phone. It was that bad, even just outside the estate. And that meant if I'm late to class and everyone has sat down, I'm not going in. I won't go in. And even if I go in, I won't even pay attention because I'd be thinking everyone just saw me walk in. I can imagine what they're thinking about me, all the bad things they're thinking about me. I just can't. My first assignment from counseling was we used to have a cafeteria in school, and it was so big. Everyone was there. And I had never stepped foot. I knew I was going to graduate to KCA without stepping in that cafeteria. Like there was no way I was gonna go in. So when you give me the assignment to one day just walk in and just stand and find a place to sit, look around, find a place to sit alone, it was, I think my body felt sick for a while. And I couldn't even pay attention knowing that I have this assignment that I need to go because I had to do it so that we can continue the next session. So when I eventually went, I stood there. I think I stood for 3 seconds and immediately I found somewhere to sit. And when I sat down, I started noticing people and I'd noticed everyone is actually, people aren't even paying attention to me the minute I sat down. And the minute someone stands up, you can tell how scared and nervous they are. So it was relieving to find out that, oh, so we are all thinking that people are looking at us when in reality we are, because everyone is okay with a group. When they stand on their own and they have to go buy something on their own, you can see them fidgeting and they're just not okay. And I think with time now, I just started going in because I figured everyone just has their own things. They are
Wow.
looking or emerging. Some have even zoned out. So yeah, small steps. So I just had to go through some assignments of walking from point A to B alone, no earphones, just me. And let me just, I even started telling myself, I feel like someone is looking at me, I should look at them back so that we can have that eye contact game until you're okay. Yeah.
I remember the first time I was telling you, everyone is scared the same way you are, and I want you to go sit in that cafeteria. You're like, what? And when you came back, I remember you laughing. Yes, I sat down, I was looking at other ladies, they're about to fall down when they're walking, and really quickly realized that all of us struggle with the same thing. And yeah, and that quite quickly reminds me that during those days you couldn't even stand before people to speak. And the other day you were actually the MC in Alliance. It's called Alliance Francais. You were the MC.
Yeah.
How? Could you please share that briefly? Trying to imagine who you are and who you are now.
Before I got the MC gig, I won a public speaking contest at school in French. And yeah, even for that, I remember my family, when they were posting, my aunts were calling me and they were like, is that you? Because even at home, I don't speak like that. So everyone was just concerned, is there something you took before that? Or is there something you had to, we can't believe that was you standing there. And I feel like at some point they want to frame those videos because they also can't believe that I was speaking in front of people. And I actually won the contest. So from winning, now I got the I was asked to MC an evening event at school. So yeah, even that was a bit challenging, but that was challenging not because I was scared. It's because I was dealing with a very challenging crowd of students. But it was, it's still okay. Like now I'm really comfortable, or in my head I stopped thinking about what people think. Yeah.
You're
So yeah, we've
comfortable with
graduated to that
yourself.
point where
Yeah. Amen. No, no, no.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
That is so wonderful. I truly appreciate. Now, I want you to go back. The time that we were just about to meet with your parents, and it was one of the most difficult things. It took you about a month, to count codes and to journal and write everything down, even before we had a meeting. And eventually it happened, and I was like, wow. So, could you take me through the journey why it is important to involve our parents?
Um, for them to have an idea. I think for me, it's for them to have an idea because I feel like for my parents, they were really in the dark because they were really shocked on some things that I was reading, and you'd see how they look at you and they're like, "What do you mean? Like, I don't believe that's you." Because even for them, they believe they've done their best, so it's very difficult to imagine that even some of the things I had gone through, they had, but they couldn't imagine that their child would go through the same. So it was important for me because now they had an idea, and it even shed light to my brother, especially because he sort of like understood where I've been coming from, and it was easy for me now to communicate with him without fighting because he knew because he was there when I was talking to my mom, who was at the same place since my mom was online. So he also listened to every other thing. And I think because my mom shared some of them with him. But generally with both of them, I'm just glad they have an idea. Even if it took a while for us to work through our relationship, them just knowing that this is something you've gone through is so important than them being in the dark and you're constantly pointing fingers at them, but they don't even know, So
Oh,
I I think that
that
for me
makes it.
was it was just important for them to have an idea.
Because home is home, home will always be home. You might go east or west, but your parents remain your parents.
Yeah,
And keeping them in the dark, it doesn't matter how many friends you tell out there. When you come back home, you come. And so I believe that you're simply giving advice, both parents and the young ones. Now, having a wonderful parental child relationship is important. And even now, your sibling, your brother knowing, now that helped you to have a wonderful relationship with him, and it helped him to know how to handle you. And so, thank you. Thank you
yeah.
so much. Now, I believe that you as well knew about many counselors. You were told about this pastor who does life coaching and biblical, counseling. Why did you choose specifically biblical counseling, and how did it help you?
This is what I tell other people when I refer them to you. It's important to have a Christian based because I'm not um, disregarding other therapists, but I've also had friends who've gone for therapy, but with wrong people because they're also wrong therapists. There's one who had a whole session for I think 4 months where the therapist she was saying they just opened her wounds and left it at that, and everything she'd say, the therapist would tell the parents. So it's even breaking the barrier where she has to talk to her parents themselves because you'd find the parents now defending themselves and saying, "Also, this is what you said in therapy about me," but she didn't get a chance to. So for me, that was not very professional, especially since she wasn't a kid; she was an adult. And for me, Christian based is important. I'm a Christian, that's one. And it's important to also attach everything I've gone through with the Bible. Now I get to see what God says in my situation. It's something that I couldn't do on my own since I never managed to read the Bible like that. But now I started reading it and I know when I feel sad, there's this verse that we went through when I talked about um, I feel sad that I don't have a job, and there's a verse that we read. So it helps me even when I'm advising other people, or when I feel sad again, I'll go back to that verse. And it's so important to know how God can help you. Because you see, even for me, the time when I used to say, like, I used to ask God, why would you even let me come here? So when I started going for counseling, and every time we'd read a verse, now I'd understand my relationship with God. I'd understand why some things had to go the way it did without necessarily blaming God or blaming anyone, because that's just how life is. So yeah, I think that was very important for me, and it really strengthened my spiritual connection with Him a lot. Because now, if I didn't have to journal, or I didn't have, now I just found myself actually talking to God, like, now not talking, ranting and complaining, but I'm not journaling, but I'm telling him this is how things are, and it made me feel more at peace than if I had told a friend or told anyone else. Like, it made me feel so at peace to talk to him before now talking to other people.
Wow. Wow. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. First of all, I think you brought a very key point, the counseling and that does not have confidentiality. Actually, that's a very wrong platform. Many mistakes that counselors do, especially, church-based counselors, just talking about their children without their permission or consent, that is really wrong. But as well, you've also mentioned that God is a creator and has a manual for you. So that manual helps you to know how to run your life and how to relate with Him. And you've also mentioned that when now you're in challenges, you go back to memorize scriptures, and you've also found grounds for advising people. Wow, great. Oh, really? Now, I want to ask you a question. One of the things that came up, I know when the first time your mother, realized it was a male counseling you, and number two, she also quickly realized that, again, a pastor, I know that brought solace, and she needed to interview me to know who I am, which I felt was very important, a protective measure of a parent. She interviewed me. I want to know who you are, what you do, why you do, and how long. And so I found that just maybe you didn't know, but she needed to interview me to get to know if you're protected, safe or not. And what would you advise? Of course, my advice, because many times you find that in counseling relationship, male, female, there's a little bit of abuse as well. It's just being good to be cautious. What are some of the things that maybe you'd advise young people towards seeking for appropriate, helpful, or helping counseling?
Mm, Honestly, there's no advice I can give them other than to pray they find the right person, because you're never too sure. I comfortable. One thing I know about me, I was more comfortable in opening up to a male than a female, because for a female, I felt there's so many aspects of my life I'd feel judged by them. That includes the termination of the pregnancy. I didn't feel comfortable to a female because I thought, what if she had a miscarriage herself, or what if she's can't be able to have kids, like that would have been very problematic for me. And there are people also who I know are like men who are comfortable with opening up to a female than a male. So whichever anyone is comfortable to opening up to, that's like the thing. You just have to be comfortable opening up to this person, and you just have to pray you find the right person. And it's something I also pray for everyone who's going through a similar challenge, or they're also seeking the same opportunity I got. They just get someone who is good, someone who will really help them get through whatever they're going through. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually, thank you so much for that. I know a very key and very important word you've kept on repeating. One was journaling, 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 journaling. That brings about what we call self-awareness. For self-awareness, you become self-protective. And if you're not able to understand yourself, you cannot protect yourself. You are not able to understand yourself, then there's nothing to change because you cannot change yourself. So journaling, journaling, you repeated that several times, and I really, really appreciate. Apart from that, the question that I want to ask, in your position, one, as a young person in school, having gone through bullying, tribalistic, natured bullying, having gone through that racial, having gone to that kind of school that you mentioned, up to where you are right now, having learned what you've learned, what would be the few words of advice you give young and single people? Of course, Rochelle is still single and searching, if I'm not wrong. What advice would you give young people on dating and building healthy relationships or friendships?
Like I said, the first one is when you love yourself, there's no take home advice someone can give you because you're the only one who knows what's best for you. So one thing I know about me is I make sure I interact with people who have the same goals as me. The people who are seeking growth, mental growth. You can't be working on yourself and you're surrounding yourself with people that will still bring you down, people that still talk about movies about suicide or self-harm in a bad way, not the ones that educate you, people that sort to drinking to drown their problems. uh, you just have to align yourself with people that they have your goals align, in short. So if you're going to church or you're going to the mosque, it doesn't matter whichever religion, all of us still believe in God. That's the first thing. We can be able to pray together, not all the time, but you need to ask yourself, even in the friendship circle, I mean, can I be able to call these people and ask them that I'm going through something, I want them to pray with me? Will they be able to pray with me? Or will they start asking, what do you mean pray? Like, you know, you should be with people who they're working towards certain goals in life. Like they want to, they're doing a job, or they're working on their business. People that have a sense of purpose or a sense of belonging in life. But that doesn't mean you remove all your stress, because everyone goes through trauma and also has a past that they're healing from. It's just how they do it. If you're with someone that you've tried talking to them, telling them that this route they're taking, or you can do much as pray for them and advise them. But if it gets to a point that you've turned into a parent or a therapist yourself, it's really time to just cut them off for a moment until they get their sense. But you can just be there to hold their hand when they're going through it. But you shouldn't let other people drain you, because even if you're still healing from your own, you're not 100% okay. So it's easy. It's like when you're trying to save someone who's drowning and they don't know how to swim, they can easily drown with them. So you just have to be careful in a way. You want to help them, but it doesn't. It doesn't affect you and the work you've put for yourself.
Wow. So no one in a swimming pool, even experts, they'll throw a rope to you so that you can easily drown them down with
Yeah.
with you. I think that makes a very important point that you got to be very clear about what you want, because once you're clear about what you want and who you are, it naturally will determine who you work with. And in mutual friendships, you've got to look for a friend, not one you parent, not one you cancel, but one that you know walk together. But that doesn't mean you don't hold their hands as you walk together. The other thing that I learned as well as you were speaking, when you said that the moment that you desired, you wanted to commit suicide, you were reading a lot of books looking for solutions from books. And man, it's then very important what movie and what books we watch. For if we fill our brain with the wrong information, what happens? We exactly do that which we read, that which we associate with, and those who we associate with. Yeah, that's another point that I almost forgot, but I really, really appreciate. Yeah, this was a wonderful, wonderful interview, and I truly am blessed to have worked with you. And even seeing you speaking today, I was like, wow, I'm trying to imagine way back where you came. To me, it was in this same office. And I thank God, you've been a blessing to me in many ways. When you see someone grow, when you see someone change, and you see that nothing that you have done apart from applying the word of God in their life, truly, truly, that has also inspired me to want to help many other people. Like with the same challenge I gave you earlier, even before, that as you have been inspired briefly by God through me, that you will be of great inspiration to many. And I believe by what you've just recorded is going to inspire many other people. Truly appreciate. So, what would be your parting remarks, or rather, last words that you'd want to share so that we close it up? Say anything you've not said, everything you want to say here.
My last remarks would be everyone is going through something. That that's really important to keep in mind. Everyone, that includes people, even strangers on the road. If you find that it help you, you'll start also looking at people from a point of empathy a little. But yeah, everyone is going through something. Everyone has a past. Everyone has traumas they're dealing with. So it's really important to just be kind to whoever, no matter how rude they are. That's what I tell my. Sometimes you find these conductors, they start yelling insults. I just tell myself, I I pray you heal from whatever you're going through. So that's my parting shot.
Thank you. Thank you. How kind of you, to know that we all have something. Someone could be their house flooded today. Someone could be a chronic ailment. Someone could have had a battle or a fight with their wife in the morning. And so being empathetic to simply acknowledge, accept people for who they are, and seeking to understand the people for who they are, and that would make the world a better place. And because challenges are part of life, they're there, but as well how we manage them. So thank you so much. I'm
Thank
truly
you.
honored to have had this interview with you. And apart from that, I think it would be good for you to tell us exactly what you do so that if clients or customers are looking for you, they know who to look for. Please market yourself. There's the time and opportunity. And you got to be
Okay.
clear.
Now,
You got to be clear whether you're single, still searching or not.
um, I'm a fashion designer. I make clothes. Right now, I'm even more into styling. My brand is called Miara Fashion House. I'm also an interpreter and English, French, Swahili French interpreter, stroke translator. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Good. So if you want a fashion designer, please feel free to look for Rochelle. If you are traveling to a French country, if you have a French business partner, please feel free to look for Rochelle as well to be able to guide you through. It's been a
Yeah,
wonderful pleasure, talking and going through this interview. Without further ado, I will just want to quote one scripture. The Bible says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. And one, that's the book of Romans, that God always has good intentions for us. Number two, the most famous book, the book of John 3:16, he says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believed in him should not perish, but have eternal life. And to know that God loves us so dearly, even though we go through challenges, we go through hard and difficult times, but God still loves us. And to demonstrate his love, he sent his Son to die for us, so that those who believe in him will always forever be protected, will always be forever be taken care of. It's been a pleasure running you through this session.
Thank you.
This is Charles Omolo, and Charles Owidi. Feel free to visit our website, which is coachowidi.org. And if you desire also as well to be taken through life coaching and counseling, feel free to please contact me. And I do believe if you have any questions or doubting, you can talk to Rochelle. She will tell you all the bad things about you. Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.